Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Martial Universe Season 6 based on novel. So let's start. Wild and violent yuan power that was accompanied by a shocking energy ripple continuously swept apart in the messy rock grounds. There were 6 figures amongst them, who were flashing and crossing each other in a ghost-like manner, causing one to feel a little dazzled. Turns out Lin Dong is actually a useless person who acts tough, but has little substance. They were only able to become famous likely because of that fellow called Lin Diao. A blood-red clothed figure on a large rock looked towards the battleground with a sinister expression and laughed coldly. We should also attack. Liu Bai and Yang Sen are not ordinary individuals. It is likely that we will need to expend a great amount of effort in order to finish them off. A person with dense white clothes and darkly cold eyes turned towards Liu Bai's group at the chaotic ground, and spoke in an indifferent manner. Alright, we'll finish this battle as soon as possible. Shui Ying gave an abnormal laugh. Immediately, he turned his body and suddenly rushed out. A rich bloody scent spread out from within his body, causing those who sniff it to feel like vomiting. The minds of these people would also fall into a trance-like state. It appeared that a trace of lethal poison was contained within the scent. It is likely that we will be quite close to stepping into the Nirvana Golden ranking, after we take the Nirvana seals of these 2 fellows. Hua Jiyu let out a loud and dense laughter. He closely followed and fiercely violent yuan power swept out. It directly covered over Liu Bai's group in the distance. When the 2 of them moved, a large group of people behind them also suddenly followed closely behind. Clearly, they were the experts from the 2 large empires. There were even experts from the Sky Devil Empire amongst them. Their momentum was quite powerful. Their actions were naturally discovered by Liu Bai's group. Immediately, their expressions changed, while their eyes also had a ruthless expression flickering within them. They were not afraid of engaging the Blood Seal Empire, or the Bone Jade Empire, as long as there were no experts on the level of the 3 devils from the Song clan amongst the other party. After all, who would end up emerging victorious was still up in the air. These jerks have been arrogant for too long, after having the Sky Devil Empire support them during this period of time. It is time to seek some payback today. An expert behind Liu Bai clenched his teeth and said, "There are still some experts from the Sky Devil Empire within this group who are a little troublesome to deal with." Liu Bai's eyes suddenly looked towards the back of the Shui Ying. There were 2 extremely powerful aura at that spot. Although the auras had yet to reach the level of the 5 yuan Nirvana stage, they were also considered as genuine 4 yuan Nirvana stage experts. Moreover, these 2 people were competent warriors from within the Sky Devil Empire, and they were not weaker than Feng Kang, who had been defeated in Lin Dong's hands back then. The combination of Liu Bai's and Yang Sen's parties was not inferior to the Blood Seal Empire and the Bone Jade Empire. However, they could not ignore the Sky Devil Empire. Although the most troublesome 3 devils of the Song clan had been currently held back by Lin Dong's group, there were still quite a number of skillful individuals under them. An example was the 2 figures whom Liu Bai had seen within the group. They possessed an extremely powerful fighting strength. Moreover, Liu Bai and Yang Sen had to fight with Shui Ying and Hua Jiyu, and they would not be able to free themselves to lend a hand. Hence, if they allowed these 2 fellows to join the chaotic battle, it would undoubtedly end up being a huge blow against them. "Why don't you leave those 2 to me?" While Liu Bai was fretting over this matter, a timid voice suddenly sounded from behind him. Immediately, everyone became stunned. They turned their heads before their faces were stunned as they looked at the green-clothed young pretty lady. That young and pretty face of the young lady immediately became sleek red upon becoming the center of attention. "You? Liu Bai stared at Su Ru and felt a little awkward. However, he did not feel that things were comical because of it. Having witnessed the extraordinary events of Lin Dong's group, he believed that these people, who were following behind him, were likely not simple individuals. However, even they had to spend a great deal of effort if they wanted to deal with those two fellows from the Sky Devil Empire. Could it be that this young lady in front of them was actually able to fight against them on her own? Ha ha, brother Liu Bai, just leave these two people to my sister. Amongst all of us here, she is the strongest besides the Lin Dong trio. Su Kuei laughed. His tone contained a little pride. Liu Bai and Yang Sen were startled upon hearing this. Their gazes were surprised as they looked towards the somewhat embarrassed Su Ru. Since Su Kuei had spoken in this manner, it was obvious that the young lady in front should be in possession of quite a great ability. Otherwise, he would not push his sister forward. In that case, we will leave it to your sister. However, if you encounter any trouble later, we will dispatch some people to help share a little of the burden. No matter what happens, I hope that you will continue to survive. If the victor could be determined on Lin Dong's side, the result of this battle will appear. Liu Bai cupped his hands together and said, "Yes. I will do my best." Su Ru looked towards the battleground between Lin Dong and Song Jun. A worried expression flashed across her beautiful large eyes. She immediately nodded after that. It appeared that Lin Dong's situation was currently not going well. In that case, she must not end up failing. Otherwise, it was likely that the pressure placed on Lin Dong's shoulders would become even greater. Liu Bai ceased saying anything upon seeing this. He was genuinely uncertain about whether Su Ru would be able to block the two skilled warriors from the Sky Devil Empire. However, he did not have any other choice at this moment. Attack! Liu Bai and Yang Sen exchanged glances with one another, before they abruptly let out a low cry. Mighty Yuan power suddenly erupted. Their bodies rushed out and directly met with Shui Ying's group, which was rushing over explosively. A fierce aura surged the two groups of people behind them. After which, the groups became like floodwater, as they completely blocked the experts from the Blood Seal Empire and Bone Jade Empire. Bang bang. The people from both parties were just like giant waves that swept over the land, before they violently clashed into one another. Wild and violent Yuan power immediately spread out in all directions. The battleground was expended within a short moment. Killing cries directly charged towards the clouds. Big brother, all of you should be careful. Su Ru's pretty small face had become much more serious at this moment. She looked at the two somewhat formidable warriors from the Sky Devil Empire. Her delicate fingers immediately landed on her snow-white wrist. Her seal technique changed as they directly landed on her 3 seals. 3 seals, open. Su Ru cried out softly. A strange jade-green energy swept out from within her body like floodwaters. Her long hair danced and a shocking aura spread apart. Quite a number of surprised gazes were being attracted. Clearly, they had some difficulty imagining that such a young lady would actually be in possession of such a mighty power. Swoosh! The jade-green light surged before Su Ru's delicate body rushed out with a lightning-like speed. 2 jade-green energy agglomerated into a ring shape in her hands. After which, they directly turned into 2 cold light that shot towards the 2 skilled warriors from Sky Devil Empire. Green light tore through the air and shot out at an extremely shocking speed. Even the 2 warriors from Sky Devil Empire were merely able to see a light flickering from the corner of their eyes. After which, that sharp ring arrived in front of them. Immediately, some cold sweat surfaced on the foreheads of the 2 of them. They hurriedly slammed their hand, which had a golden light surging over it. Finally, they slammed heavily onto the ring. Clang! The sound of metal appeared. Those two warriors from the Sky Devil Empire shot backwards immediately. Their expressions were a little ugly as they looked at their palm. Some traces of blood vaguely appeared. Clearly, they did not expect that their bodies would still be injured after activating their Nirvana golden bodies. Huff! Liu Bai's group, which had been observing this side, immediately seemed to have been relieved of a great burden as they let out a sigh. Only then could they focus on dealing with Shui Ying's group in front of them. He, Liu Bai, you should not be so stubborn. Obediently hand over the Nirvana seal, and I might grant you a quick and easy death. A majestic blood glow surged around Shui Ying's body. After which, it transformed into waves after waves of shocking attacks that covered Liu Bai. At the same time, a dense cold laughter was being emitted from his mouth. It is a little too early for you to be celebrating. Liu Bai let out a cold snort. He clenched his hand and a long spear appeared with a flash. The shadows of the spear immediately surged. It became just like a storm, as it carried a shockingly sharp aura and launched a counterattack. Ha, even though you are currently able to endure, Brother Songjun would be able to join in the fight once Lin Dong is defeated. At that time, I will see just what morale you people will have. Shui Ying laughed ferociously. He repeatedly attempted to give pressure to Liu Bai through his words, and caused the latter to reveal some openings. Liu Bai's expression was dark and solemn. However, he did not say anything else. He was clearly aware that Shui Ying was speaking the truth. Once that Songjun was freed, the battle over this side would definitely become a one-sided one. However, he was helpless when it came to this. Currently, the only thing he could do was hope that Lin Dong would be able to endure a little longer. At the very least, they seemed to have quite a great advantage at the battle little Martin was in. Swoosh swoosh. Sharp spear shadows appeared, forcing back the attacks from Shui Ying. Liu Bai's gaze could not resist glancing towards Lin Dong's battleground. At that spot, the area where Lin Dong could dodge had already been gradually suppressed by Songjun until an extremely small one. If this continued, it was likely that Lin Dong would be forced by Songjun until he had no retreat path left within a short period of time. Lin Dong, just what are you doing? This is not like you. Could it be that you have really been pushed back by Songjun until such an extent? Liu Bai clenched his teeth and quietly muttered in his heart. Bang! A shocking sound suddenly resounded over this chaotic rocky ground. Wind rippled as it spread. Everyone's eyes looked over almost instant, only to see that Lin Dong had actually been forced to directly meet Songjun's punch head-on. Has he been forced into a corner? The corner of the eyes of quite a number of people twitched when they looked at this stiff situation. If they were to descend into a forcefully clash, Songjun would clearly be able to rely on his 5 Yuan Nirvana stage strength to suppress Lin Dong. Ha, what can you do now? Songjun's figure did not move as his palm wind swept apart. His eyes revealed an expression of ridicule as he looked towards Lin Dong, who was directly forced back 10 steps. Bang! Lin Dong's foot stepped heavily onto the ground. A deep footprint appeared. His body trembled slightly and a bright red color had already appeared under his skin. He lowered his head, appearing to be suppressing something. A moment later, both of his fists were suddenly clenched tightly. He was finally unable to endure any longer, as he raised his head and emitted a low and deep voice. Bang! After this low and deep cry was emitted, everyone immediately saw circular substance like bright red flames suddenly sweeping out from within his body. The rocks on the ground were destroyed wherever the flame passed. Not even powder remained. Those people with sharp eyes were also able to see the rising clusters of black-colored fire seedling within the flame. Is that the Nirvana demon flame? The chaotic rocky ground was instantly silent. Everyone was stunned as they looked at Lin Dong, whose entire body had turned bright red. They could sense a familiar ripple from Lin Dong's body. That was the Nirvana tribulation. Lei Ning and Feng Qing beside her on the large rock had a solidified expression on their faces. A shock had surged out from deep within their eyes like floodwaters. They had finally understood why Lin Dong had turned so weak, as well as the reason for him repeatedly dodging Song Zhen's attacks. He was actually undergoing a Nirvana tribulation. Undergoing a Nirvana tribulation during battle. Upon thinking of this, Lei Ning could not resist inhaling a deep breath of cold air despite her coolness. She muttered, "That fellow is really a freak." The scarlet flame that contained the black-colored fire seedlings began to spread out in a ring shape. All the huge boulders that were in the path of the extending flame were burned to nothing. Even the small pebbles on the ground were not spared. It appeared that even the dust on the ground had completely disappeared as well. At this moment, the gazes from the onlookers surrounding the rubble land froze. All the commotion disappeared and were replaced by a weird dead silence. Nirvana demon flame. Nirvana tribulation. Following which, the frozen gazes shifted gradually and landed upon the youth that was standing in the arena with his head lowered. The onlookers' eyes were filled with an intense fear. Those who were able to make it here were considered rather capable. Passing through Nirvana tribulation was an essential experience that everyone here had before. As such, they were extremely familiar with the energy undulation from a Nirvana tribulation. Usually, no one would have such a big reaction to this kind of energy undulation. After all of them had experienced personally. However, it was a different situation now. That was because the person who was experiencing the Nirvana tribulation now was not seated down quietly and fighting with the tribulation. Instead, he was battling a practitioner whose strength had reached 5 yuan Nirvana stage. Undergoing the Nirvana tribulation in the midst of a battle. Everyone felt deeply absurd when they thought of this. Nirvana tribulation was the most frightening experience for any Nirvana stage practitioner. Every time this tribulation arrived, everyone would immediately look for a secluded area, or seek protection from friends in hopes of battling it in peace. Most of the Nirvana stage practitioners did not die in the battles with their enemies, but rather they died during the Nirvana tribulation. This goes to show just how terrifying the Nirvana tribulation was. However, currently, they witnessed with their own eyes someone who dared to undergo the Nirvana tribulation in the midst of a battle. This created a mind-boggling sensation in their minds. Everyone was so shocked that they turned speechless. This fellow, Liu Bai, and his counterpart's offense was slightly slowed down when they saw what happened. They finally understood why Lin Dong went all-out defensive in response to Song Zhen's attacks. It turned out that this fellow had used a huge part of his energy to deal with the Nirvana tribulation in his body. Crazy. They could only use this word to describe Lin Dong's action. Previously, if he could not keep up with Song Zhen's attacks, he might lose control both externally and internally, and death would be imminent for him. Mu Honglin stared at the distant figure of Lin Dong and pursed her red luscious lips. This fellow had been creating miracles non-stop since the day they met. In contrast to Liu Bai and his counterpart's amazement, the Shuiying duo's faces became solemn at this sight. Shock and horror were surging through their eye pupils. Clearly, they had been intimidated by Lin Dong's action. Phew, such a worrisome lad, little Martin pursed his lips and heaved a sigh of relief. He did not worry much about Lin Dong's action. After being together for so many years, he clearly understood Lin Dong's prudent nature. This fellow liked to save up numerous trump cards. Sometimes, even little Martin was amazed by some of the trump cards he had. Previously, I have reminded you not to celebrate so early. It seems like you have not heeded my advice, little Martin smirked as he casted a mocking look at Song Q, whose face was extremely gloomy. Humph, what's there to be proud of? Even if that lad successfully passes through the Nirvana tribulation, he will at most be at the 4 yuan Nirvana stage. Song Q sneered. Little Martin curled the corners of his mouth slightly, and did not reply Song Q. With a grasp of his palm, boundless energy gushed out and formed a powerful attack that surged towards Song Q. Upon seeing little Martin's incoming attack, Song Q did not dare to hesitate as well. He quickly activated his Yuan power to face the incoming attack. After the previous exchange, he could clearly sense the deadliness of little Martin. Even after he activated all the energy in his body, he merely stabilized his body. If he was to hesitate for a moment, he would be defeated utterly. Apparently, Lin Dong's party's morale increased significantly at this moment. As long as the most troublesome Song devils could be impeded, they would have a high chance of winning this battle. Lin Dong's initially dangerous situation had unexpectedly taken a new turn. This bastard. Under the gazes from the audience, Song Jun's face gradually became solemn and the smile on his face disappeared bit by bit. He was staring at Lin Dong sinisterly. He was just as shocked as everyone else. However, at the same time, he was extremely furious as well. He could not imagine Lin Dong could multitask and exchanging blows with him while undergoing the Nirvana tribulation at the same time. Even he did not dare to do such a thing. However, Lin Dong was actually able to do it. I cannot let this fellow passes through the Nirvana tribulation successfully. A glint of chilliness flashed across Song Jun's eyes and his body surged forward abruptly. Violent Yuan power gushed out and formed an enormous monstrous claw. Accompanied by an odd energy, the claw swiped at Lin Dong ruthlessly. It's too late to discover it now. Lin Dong raised his head slowly and revealed a smirk on his face. He reached out his palm, before a streak of black-colored flame shot out and blasted towards that odd claw. Whoosh! As the streak of black-colored flame left Lin Dong's palm, a powerful wave of Yuan power gushed out from his body as well. Even his aura seemed to expand immensely at this moment. Has he successfully passed through the Nirvana tribulation? How can it be so fast? Upon sensing the sharp rise in Lin Dong's aura, Song Jun's face turned ashen in an instant. He could not believe that Lin Dong could pass through the 4th Nirvana tribulation in such a short time. Song Jun did not really know much about Lin Dong. Therefore, he would not know how powerful Lin Dong's physical body was, after the latter mastered the Green Heaven materialized dragon skill. Even though the 4th Nirvana tribulation was considerably tough, it did not deal a fatal blow to Lin Dong. With an exceptional determination and vigorous physical body, Lin Dong was able to endure through the Nirvana tribulation in a relatively short time. Lin Dong could feel the surging Yuan power in his body. As compared to the past, the boundless energy within his body was numerous times stronger. By making such a risky move, Lin Dong was able to close up the gap between the two men's strength. You're right. It's indeed impossible to kill you with the strength of the 3 Yuan Nirvana stage. However, I will be able to do so now. Lin Dong raised his head and looked smilingly at Song Jun's ashen face. Then, he stretched his back and a sharp smile that contained chilliness appeared on his face. After the first exchange of blows, Lin Dong could sense the huge disparity between 3 Yuan Nirvana stage and 5 Yuan Nirvana stage. Even if he used other methods to compensate for this disparity, it was still extremely arduous to obtain a victory. Clearly, Lin Dong was not satisfied with such a victory. Therefore, after thinking through his strategy, he chose to take the risk and tackle the Nirvana tribulation. As long as he could reach the 4 Yuan Nirvana stage successfully, Song Jun's dominance would decrease significantly and rapidly. Arrogant lad, even if you reached the 4 Yuan Nirvana stage, the gap between us is still immeasurable. Trying to challenge me by moving up in Nirvana stage. Do you really think I am those trash that you fought in the past? Songjun replied sinisterly as his eyes flickered. Lin Dong smiled. Then, he reached out his palm face up and bent it slightly. It was an obvious provocation. A piece of shit that is courting death. Songjun was enraged. Resplendent golden light gushed out from his body in an instant. Following which, he stamped his right foot on the ground. Immediately, the earth trembled and numerous earth dragons that were imbued with violent yuan power erupted from the ground. They then formed a circle around Lin Dong and blasted towards the latter with an earth-shattering force. Upon seeing such powerful attack from the earth dragons, Lin Dong merely smiled. With a flip of his palm, the black metallic seal expanded instantaneously. An enormous black shadow descended from the sky and the berserking earth dragons exploded with a loud bang. Rumble. Mud and soil flew everywhere. The dust that pervaded the air dissipated rapidly after a short while. A huge metallic seal appeared and Lin Dong was standing atop it. This time around, Lin Dong did not show any signs of dodging Songjun's attack. Instead, he forcibly crushed the latter's attack with a resolute posture. Everyone could tell that the situation within the arena was changing gradually. The previous lopsided battle had turned around. Lin Dong stood atop the metallic seal while facing the wind. His gaze was fixated on Songjun. Traces of chilliness were seeping out from his eyes. Howl. Frantic yuan power was whizzing around Lin Dong's body. With a grasp of his palm, the heavenly crocodile bone spear appeared in his hand. He swiped his spear upward and pointed it at Songjun. All the yuan power in his body was spiraling around the bone spear, giving off a resplendent dazzle. Now, shall we have some fun? Meanwhile, atop the huge boulder, the corners of Lan Ying's mouth curled slightly, as she saw the explosive expansion in Lin Dong's aura. She then turned to Qing Feng and said, "Do you believe my words now? Lin Dong is no pushover." Qing Feng nodded his head as a solemn look appeared on his face. He then muttered softly, "He is indeed not simple. The situation is starting to take a turn." However, Songjun is not an ordinary individual as well. It's still too early to tell who will emerge victorious. Majestic yuan power spiraled around the bone spear. The powerful energy that it contained made it tremble slightly. Waves of weird humming sound that caused the air to undulate constantly were given off by the spear as well. From Lin Dong's cold-blooded face, everyone could tell that he was about to erupt after being in the disadvantageous position for the previous exchanges. In front of Lin Dong, Songjun's face was terrifyingly somber. When Lin Dong passed through the nirvana tribulation in front of his eyes, he felt as if he was being played like a monkey. Since the day he entered the ancient battlefield, his journey had been smooth. After obtaining the inheritance from the 4 great demon sects, his already powerful strength was taken up another notch. From his perspective, only the leaders of the top 3 super empires in the entire ancient battlefield would be able to repress him. A mere individual like Lin Dong was not even worth his time and attention. However, it was also the case that the one whom he considered a mere individual dared to ridicule him in front of so many people. "If today I don't rip you apart into 1,000 pieces, what face will I Songjun have?" A sinister look rose upon Songjun's face. Torrential dark glows suddenly erupted from his body. These dark glows were extremely odd. As they wiggled, traces of bizarre energy seemed to emit from them. The energy was somewhat similar to the devouring ancestral symbol's devouring power. The only difference was that this energy was much more frigid and tyrannical. The dark glows congregated in Songjun's hands and materialized into a huge black-colored trident. There was a weird picture atop the trident. Indistinctly, It looked like an enormous beast that was roaring in the direction of the sky. Its huge mouth was extremely eye-grabbing. The beast looked as if it wanted to devour the entire heaven and earth. As the trident was formed, a roar that seemed to come from the ancient times resounded throughout the area. The picture on the trident seemed to come to life as it started to wiggle and devour the yuan power between the heaven and earth continuously. Lin Dong, I will show you what Dao Tai sex inheritance is like. Songjin snarled in a low voice as killer intent gushed through his eyes. With a jolt of his body, a shadow surged forward. With a swish, the shadow appeared before Lin Dong in a ghost-like manner. The trident in his hands brought upon a torrential dark glow that engulfed Lin Dong like a deathly black hole. Swish! The torrential black glow was reflected in Lin Dong's eyes. However, he did not show any signs of dodging even when he faced such a powerful attack from Songjin. With a glint of chilliness in his eyes, he jerked the bone spear in his hands. An ancient hissing sound broke out from the spear, and a chilling glow ripped through the air. That kind of chilliness created eerie spear sparkles at the tip of the spear. The spear sparkles spread out like the blossoming of a flower. However, a chilling killer intent was concealed within that magnificence. As the spear sparkles formed and ripped through the air, they collided ferociously with the violent trident. Clang! Accompanied by flame and sparks, a crisp sound resounded through the air. At this moment, a ripple broke out in the formless air and extended in all directions with a terrifying speed. Swish, swish, swish. Horrifying gales swept across the area. Without any changes in his facial expression, Lin Dong jerked the bone spear in his hands again. An explosion of spear sparkles broke out, and they hovered in the air like fallen flower petals. Like a bunch of exceptionally sharp daggers, they then pierced towards Songjin's vital points with an extreme speed. This unforeseen event was rather sudden. Even Songjin was stunned by this sight. By the time he returned to his senses, the deadly aura had reached him. Humph! Even though Songjin was in a dire straits, he did not show any signs of panicking. Instead, he gave a sarcastic snort. Dark glow surged through his body, and oddly formed a black-colored huge mouth on his chest. A terrifying swallowing force erupted from the black mouth, and completely swallowed the deadly spear sparkles. The Dao Tai beast devours all living things in the heaven and earth. Even though your attack is powerful, it's useless against me. Ha ha! Songjin laughed heartily towards the sky. Soon after, with a glint of chilliness in Songjin's eyes, the black glow of the trident in his hands began to dance and blasted in the direction of Lin Dong. Swallowing power. Lin Dong brandished the bone spear in his arms and warded off Songjin's attack. His eyes froze slightly. Reportedly, the Dao Tai beast possessed a kind of terrifying swallowing power. There was nothing in the heaven and earth that it could not swallow. From a different perspective, its swallowing power was somewhat similar to the devouring ancestral symbol's devouring power. However, the only swallowing power could do is to swallow. From a different perspective, it was not as powerful as the devouring power. Of course, there was nothing strange about this fact. After all, devouring power was bestowed by the devouring ancestral symbol. And the devouring ancestral symbol was the one of the 8 great ancestral symbols between the heaven and earth. Even though the Dao Tai beast was rather ancient and iconic, it was still considerably weaker than the devouring ancestral symbol. Ha ha, Lin Dong, your strength will be continuously swallowed by the Dao Tai beast during the battle with me. The more you fight me, the weaker you get. How are you going to challenge then? The trident in Songjin's hands became an intense dark glow and engulfed Lin Dong. Every time it made contact with Lin Dong's bone spear, the swallowing power would surge and swallowed some of the yuan power that was imbued within the spear. If the situation was to carry on, Lin Dong's yuan power would be lesser and lesser. Eventually, he would be in a dire straits. However, this would happen if it was any other ordinary individual that was fighting Songjin. Clearly, Lin Dong did not belong to this category of individuals. It was rather childish to display the so-called swallowing power in front of Lin Dong, who actually possessed the devouring power. Therefore, a ridiculous smile appeared on Lin Dong's face when he heard Songjin's mocking comment. Songjin was enraged when he saw Lin Dong's smile. Just as he was about to intensify his attack, his facial expression suddenly changed. That was because he could sense the dark energy that shrouded his trident was disappearing trace by trace. Swoosh swoosh. As the energy that shrouded his trident disappeared, Lin Dong looked as if he had consumed steroids, and his attack became extremely ferocious all of a sudden. It was as if the energy that Songjin lost had been transferred to Lin Dong. How can this be? Songjin's facial expression changed drastically. Clenching his teeth, he quickly activated his swallowing power and tried to swallow Lin Dong's power. However, this time around, the result let him down. Lin Dong's yuan power seemed to be protected by something that completely neglected his swallowing power. The most shocking thing was when his swallowing power made contact with Lin Dong's yuan power. The swallowing power was not only unsuccessful in swallowing the yuan power, but also it was disappearing rapidly trace by trace. There's something wrong with this fellow. Songjin shot a glance at the mocking look on Lin Dong's face, and a tinge of chilliness crept up the former's back. He could not understand what Lin Dong had done exactly, but he knew this weird occurrence definitely had something to do with the latter. It should be the inheritance that he obtained from the Green Dragon Temple. However, there definitely shouldn't be any artifact that could give him such a weird power in the Green Dragon Temple. Damn it, what trick is he exactly resorting to? Songjin's eyes were flickering. After a moment, he still could not figure it out. He could only clench his teeth and retreat helplessly. Numerous gazes from the onlookers around the rubble land were focused at the retreating Songjin. Soft whispers then broke out abruptly from the onlookers. Clearly, this was due to the obvious fact that Songjin was escaping from Lin Dong's fearsome offense. Lad, don't you be pleased with yourself so early. Songjin retreated. His facial expression became increasingly sinister. Since his slow and steady strategy did not work, he was going to use an absolute offense that could deliver instant victory. Torrential weird dark glow pour out continuously from Songjin's body. In a blink of an eye, half the sky was engulfed in darkness. That kind of sun-blotting sky appeared rather terrifying. Songjin was infuriated. Everyone could tell from this scene that Songjin was truly infuriated by Lin Dong. Raw. Dark glow was wiggling frantically around Songjin's body. Finally, under the numerous gazes from the onlookers, the dark glow materialized into a gigantic ancient pitch-black beast. The body of the beast appeared extremely odd. The color of its entire body was pitch-black, and its nose could not be seen at all. Only its enormous pitch-black mouth was extremely eye-catching. As this ancient beast appeared, a horrifying swallowing force erupted from its mouth. At this moment, a tumult of huge winds broke across the area. Waves of yuan power between the heaven and earth were being swallowed by it. This is. Numerous dumbstruck gazes were focused at the black-colored beast. Gasps broke out among the onlookers around the rubble land. Daotai spirit. The large black beast carried a monstrous-like fierceness as it arose in the sky. Waves after waves of black ripples spread apart, causing the surrounding yuan power to fluctuate intensely. Fierce beast Daotai. Numerous eyes contained traces of shock when they saw that giant black beast in the sky. Its enormous black hole-like mouth was extremely eye-catching. It is rumored that its huge mouth could swallow everything in this world. Anything that lands within it would forever sink into darkness. Many people had only heard of this renowned fearsome beast that existed in prehistoric times and had never saw it. Hence, when they saw that Songjin was actually able to summon the Daotai fierce spirit, everyone felt unusually shocked. From the Daotai fierce spirit, they could sense a shockingly fierce and violent strength. Swoosh! Songjin stood on top of the large head of that Daotai fierce spirit. His gaze contained a cold smile as he looked down at Lin Dong. The Daotai fierce spirit that he had summoned was not merely an illusionary thing. Instead, it genuinely possessed a trace of Daotai fierce beast aura. Although this aura became extremely faint with the flow of time, in Songjin's opinion, it was clearly sufficient to deal with Lin Dong. Brat, I will let you taste what is called despair. Songjin smiled viciously. Immediately, his eyes completely became dense as his hand seal changed in a lightning-like fashion. Immediately, two scarlet red appeared on Taotia's fierce beast dark body. Finally, its eyes were locked onto Lin Dong. Suo. Lin Dong's expression changed slightly when its two scarlet eyes locked onto him. He could sense the surrounding natural yuan power beginning to dissipate at this moment. That Daotai fierce spirit had actually swallowed all the surrounding yuan power. By doing so, even if Lin Dong used martial arts, its strength would weaken due to the lack of natural yuan power around him. Skilled indeed. Lin Dong softly muttered himself. Daotai sect was indeed worthy of being the leader of the four great demon sects. The so-called swallowing strength was actually this overbearing. If it was an ordinary person, that person would definitely feel restrained in this kind of environment and end up falling into a disadvantage in a fight. Howl! The Daotai fierce spirit howled towards the sky. Black ripples crazily emerged from within its black hole like big mouth. A suction force surged out before the large rocks and trees around were immediately uprooted. Finally, they were all absorbed until no traces of them remained. Those surrounding observers had a drastic change in expression upon seeing this indiscriminate attack. Their bodies hurriedly withdrew, fearing that they would be absorbed into the Daotai fierce spirit's large mouth. Laniying and Feng Qing had somewhat grave expressions, as they stood on a large rock and looked at the enormous Daotai fierce spirit that had been formed. Even they could sense a dangerous aura from the latter's enormous body. Bang! The large body of the Daotai fierce spirit suddenly stomped on the ground and rose. The land rumbled and its large body immediately transformed into an enormous black light pillar that descended from the sky, covering 100 feet radius around Lin Dong. The black light pillar wiggled in a wild manner. Finally, it directly transformed into an incomparably enormous large mouth. The enormous mouth was just like a black hole of unfathomable depth, causing one to feel fearful when looking at it. Dao Zong fierce spirit, heavenly swallowing mouth. Songjin cried out ferociously towards the sky while a rich savage expression surged up his face. He looked at Lin Dong, who was already locked onto by Daotai before a cruel expression appeared in his eyes. Lin Dong. Once you are swallowed by the Daotai fierce spirit, you will forever descend into its stomach of darkness. At that time, you will suffer a fate worse than death. A vast and might pressure fell from the sky. It appeared lifelike, as it covered hundreds of feet radius around Lin Dong. All the large rocks within this area were forcefully pressured into powder, and even the entire area had been forcefully pressured until it caved in by half a foot. Numerous crack lines began to wildly spread out in every direction like a spider web. Lin Dong's eyes were a little solemn as he stared at the dark huge mouth that had basically blocked off all of his retreat paths. There appeared to be a black hole filled with a cold and strange darkness hidden within its enormous mouth. Swoosh swoosh. The bone spear within Lin Dong's hand flew out explosively before spear after images permeated the sky. Finally, they became like a storm as they struck at the enormous mouth. However, These seemingly sharp spear-after images were directly swallowed the instant they came into contact with the dark huge mouth, and they did not even affect it at all. It was just like a bug's arm trying to stop a car. Lin Dong's eyes immediately narrowed upon seeing this scene. Ha ha, what a naive fellow. Song Jun laughed out loud. Right now, it looked like victory was in grasp. After all, even 5 Yuan Nirvana stage experts had an unusually difficult time defending against his heaven-swallowing mouth. Therefore, how could Lin Dong block it with just the strength of his 4 Yuan Nirvana stage? It's over. The dark huge mouth whizzed down. Finally, it looked just like black ink was pouring down. It directly engulfed Lin Dong in front of numerous horrified eyes. Sizzle. The strange black ink poured down, and a large deep pit quietly appeared on the ground, within 100 feet radius from where Lin Dong stood. Lin Dong and that ground had all disappeared at this moment. Has he been swallowed? Quite a number of individuals inhaled a breath of cold air upon seeing the pouring black ink and the enormous pit on the ground. It appeared as though nothing could exist amidst the black light of the Dao Tai fierce beast swallowing strength. Song Jun's body flashed and appeared in the air above the large pit. His eyes revealed a cold smile as he looked at the black-colored light cluster that was continuously wiggling. Regardless of what it was, as long as it was swallowed into its dark stomach, there was no way it could escape. Lin Dong would be digested at that place until nothing remained. The battle is over. Song Jun stretched his lazy waist. His warm smile from before once again appeared on his face. With Lin Dong's death, it was likely that the morale on their side would also surge greatly. Seems like they would be the ones who will have the last laugh in this battle. Has Lin Dong been finished off? Qing Feng was a little surprised as he looked at the wiggling black-colored light cluster and asked. Lei Ning knitted her eyebrows. She was clearly aware of just how powerful the Dao Tai fierce beast that Song Jun had unleashed was. Moreover, the most frightening thing of the Dao Tai fierce beast was its swallowing ability. Anything that was swallowed by its mouth would definitely not come out alive. Although the Dao Tai fierce spirit that Song Jun had summoned merely had a trace of the original form's aura, it was still incomparably frightening. He should be. Lei Ning was quiet for a moment. She was just about to speak when her eyes suddenly shrunk. Her gaze immediately turned towards the cluster of black light and muttered, "Not finished off." Boom. At the moment Lei Ning's eyes were focusing intently on it, the black light cluster that was wiggling strangely suddenly began to tremble intensely. Ripples continuously spread on its surface. It was as though a great change had occurred. Song Jun also experienced a drastic change in expression because of this scene. The smile on his face swiftly disappeared. Taking its place was a dense, shocked expression. He was simply unable to believe that Lin Dong would actually be able to block the terrifying swallowing strength of the fierce beast Dao Tai. However, regardless of how much disbelief he felt, the subsequent scene caused a paleness to surge up his face. Sizzle sizzle. The black light cluster wiggled swiftly and began to shrink with a speed visible to the naked eye before disappearing. That manner was as though its energy was being forcefully snatched away by something. Song Jun's face trembled upon seeing this. This black light was the inheritance that he had obtained from the Dao Tai sect. He had relied on this to unleash the swallowing strength of the fierce beast Dao Tai. If it was to disappear in this baffling manner, he would suffer a heavy blow. Hence, he quickly refocused his mind in an attempt to retrieve that black light. However, just as he was about to act, his expression turned even uglier. This was because he discovered that the connection between him and the black light was actually completely severed. What is the matter? A drop of cold perspiration dripped down from Song Jun's forehead. This strange scene had clearly exceeded his expectations. Sizzle sizzle. The black light also grew increasingly dim when Song Jun's expression changed. Immediately, a human figure slowly appeared within that black light. The rays of black light converged. Finally, they completely fell into the hands of that human figure. Lin Dong. Songjin looked at the human figure that surfaced within the black light. His eyes shrunk into the size of a pinhole almost instantly. A furious and shocked emotion surged into his voice. He could not believe that not only was Lin Dong not digested by the swallowing strength of the fierce beast Dao Tai, but he had instead absorbed that swallowing strength into his body. This scene really caused Songjin to feel as though his whole body was drenched in cold perspiration. Lin Dong, who was below, also raised his head in front of Songjin's shocked eyes, before he smiled at the latter. However, his white glittering teeth caused Songjin to feel a chillness surge up from under his feet. Dao Tai lives up to its reputation. It tastes quite good. This video will end here.